Let's just start with a big question. In our digital world, how do we know, like really know, if what we're seeing is real? I mean, a photo can be altered, a video faked, an entire story twisted, and just like that, the very foundation of trust, it just crumbles. Today, we're going to explore a new way of thinking about this, a new framework for protecting the truth. And I want you to know, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This is the reality people are facing right now. A person's life's work, their testimony, their actual truth. It can be digitally corrupted and weaponized. And sometimes, it has violent, real-world consequences. The stakes, they just couldn't be any higher.
So let's really break down this crisis of truth, because this goes so much deeper than just fake news. We're talking about the active, intentional weaponization of information, where the platforms we all use every single day become these battlegrounds for reality itself.
And this erosion of trust, it's already infecting our most important institutions. Take courtrooms. There's this chilling new strategy called the liar's dividend. An attorney doesn't even have to prove that a piece of video evidence is a deepfake. No. All they have to do is plant that little seed of doubt that it could be. And suddenly, real evidence is questioned. It completely corrodes the very foundation of our justice system.
And you know, there is a profound human cost to all of this. A huge one. When stories of survival and abuse are just shouted down by these coordinated online campaigns, it's the most vulnerable voices that get silenced. This isn't just about data or algorithms. It's about people and their truths being digitally erased. You see, our digital world, it was built for engagement, right? Not for permanence. It's time for a whole new architecture.
Okay, so if the problem is that digital stuff can be changed, then the solution has to start with a way to prove that it hasn't been. And that brings us to this incredible concept, the digital fingerprint.
At the core of this whole thing is something called cryptographic hashing. Now stick with me here. Think of it like a super advanced, one-of-a-kind blender. You put your file in, could be a photo, a document, literally anything, and it spits out this unique string of letters and numbers. That string is its digital fingerprint. And here's the crucial part. It's a one-way street. You can't take the fingerprint and work backwards to get the original file. That's what makes it so secure.
Now here's where the magic really happens. These hashing algorithms are designed with what's known as an avalanche effect. What does that mean? It means if you change a single pixel in a photo or just one comma in a document, the digital fingerprint doesn't just change a little bit. Oh no, it changes completely. It's an all-or-nothing system, and that is its superpower.
And this slide just illustrates that perfectly. So on the left, we've got a simple sentence, and its totally unique hash. On the right, the only thing that's different is we added a period at the end. That's it. Now look at the hash value. It's not just a little different, it is an entirely new fingerprint. This is what makes tampering so instantly obvious. There is literally no way to hide it.
So, okay, we've got this unbreakable digital fingerprint. That's awesome. But a fingerprint isn't much use if it gets separated from the thing it's supposed to identify, right? So the next big breakthrough is figuring out how to embed that proof directly inside the file itself.
To get how that works, let's just peek inside a regular JPEG file for a second. It's not just one big blob of picture data. No, it's actually a very structured file with different compartments. And some of those compartments are called metadata segments. They're basically designated spaces for holding extra info about the image. And here's how we can use that structure. It's a simple three-step process. First, you generate that unique hash from the core image data, the actual picture part we want to protect. Second, you wrap that hash along with who made it and when into a formal digital certificate. And third, you just insert that whole certificate into one of those empty metadata slots inside the file. The proof is now a permanent part of the file itself.
What this does is it makes the file completely self-verifying. The proof and the data are inseparable. You can email it, you can upload it, you can copy it 1,000 times, and that digital certificate just travels right along with it, everywhere it goes. It's kind of like a diplomatic pouch for data. It's sealed, it's secure, and it carries its own verification inside.
Protecting a single file, that's powerful, for sure. But what about protecting entire archives or entire histories? For that, we've got to think bigger. We need to build a fortress for our stories.
So right now, the way we store most of our stuff is on centralized systems. Just think about it. Where do your photos or documents live? Probably on a server somewhere that's owned by one big company. Well, that creates a massive single point of failure.
If that server gets breached, or if the company changes its terms of service, or an algorithm gets tweaked, poof, your data could be corrupted or just vanish.
But the alternative is a decentralized system. Instead of putting a precious story in one vulnerable treasure chest, it's like engraving that message onto 1,000 different stones and scattering them all over the world. The data is distributed across a whole network of independent computers, with no single person or company in charge. To erase that story, you'd have to find and destroy every single stone. It's just resilience by design.
But here's the thing. Technology, no matter how clever it is only half the battle. To really truly build an infrastructure of truth, we also need clear, human-driven processes. We need protocols for people.
Let's look at a real-world example of this. This is an integrity checklist a legal assistant has to go through before they can upload a document to the court's digital portal. They have to manually, with their own eyes, verify that the case number is perfect, that the header is formatted just right. They even have to check that the top margin is exactly 3 inches to leave room for the court's digital stamp. This is human oversight guaranteeing digital integrity.
So what happens is, this human checklist acts as the trigger for the technology. The document gets scanned and checked and prepped, but it goes absolutely nowhere. It cannot be filed until a real, live human being provides a verified signature. It's the perfect marriage of human accountability and technological security.
Now, when you start combining all these pieces, these unbreakable digital fingerprints, the self-verifying files, decentralized storage, and these human-led protocols, you get something truly revolutionary. You get the actual blueprint for an infrastructure of truth.
And this is not a mission for one person or one company to tackle alone. No way. Building this new foundation for our digital memory requires a coalition. It needs technologists to work side by side with journalists, with human rights activists, with historians, and with survivors, all to create tools that actually serve integrity, not just engagement.
The next evolution of this idea is to make sure that once a story is protected, it can still endure and have an impact out in the world. And this is where something called legacy markers come in. They're basically smart contracts, self-executing agreements that you attach to a protected file. They act like a digital will and testament for the story itself.
So a legacy marker can be programmed with specific instructions. For instance, it could be set up to automatically release a journalist's findings to a human rights organization if they suddenly go missing. Or it could grant an archivist access to a testimony, but only after 50 years. This makes preservation an active process. It turns a survivor's story from a passive artifact sitting in a vault into a living, breathing force for justice.
We're really at a crossroads. We can either accept a digital world where truth is fragile, where it's easily manipulated, or we can start building a new system where our most important stories are permanent, protected, and powerful. And that really leaves us all with a fundamental question to think about. What truths are we willing to build a fortress for?